Hi friends. So last weekend we went to Melbourne, and while we were in Melbourne we went to the museum. And at the Melbourne Museum they have a Viking exhibition on at the moment, and it was so good. And one of the displays at the Viking exhibition was basically like some fossilized bread, and next to it they had this recipe, which I will put a picture right here, that I took of this recipe for Viking bread. So today we're going to make Viking bread. Let's go. Okay, so the store I went to didn't have barley flour, so we're going to have to make our own. But they did have two kinds of barley grains. So this one here is pearl barley. I'm going to put that in. And then we also got black barley. Which looks like this. So we're going to put some of that in as well. And I thought actually that might be a little bit more authentic, because it's probably unlikely that they had only one type of grain, and it's probably more likely that they had black barley, to be honest. So we're going to go ahead now and try and turn this into flour. Alright, so that was actually super time consuming and really messy. So if you can buy barley flour, I suggest you do that rather than try and grind your own. I ended up switching over to the blender halfway through, which was a lot quicker, but still took a really long time. It was really messy. So what we have here is a chatty baby. So we have, you right girl? We've got 150 grams of barley flour. We have 50 grams of whole wheat flour, 100 mils of water, 2 teaspoons of flaxseed, 2 teaspoons of butter, or you can use lard, but I didn't have lard on hand, and some salt. I'm just going to put a little salt in. Yeah, you're keen to be involved too, huh? So the instructions say we just have to mix all these things together and knead it into a dough. So adding everything in, pinch of salt, and the water. And it said you might need more water or flour, and that is fine. I'm going to mix this with my hands because I imagine that's what the Vikings would have done. Yeah, girl. Okay, so it's sticky, but that's okay. I think it will come together. I don't think we should need to add any water. Okay, I'm going to tip this out onto my bench. Yeah, girl. Don't worry, the bench is clean, but you know, this is Viking bread, so it's supposed to have some like sand and grit and stuff in it anyway. According to my dad, he said that because they... Oh, girl, calm yourself. Because they would have ground their flour basically between two rocks, there would have been some sand in the bread. Bit of grit, bit of roughage, which contributes to why the Vikings had their teeth really badly worn down, because there was quite a bit of sand slash dirt slash grit in their diet. So right away what I'm noticing is that this is a very sort of coarse dough. Yeah, And that I definitely should have put my daughter to sleep before I attempted this, but that's okay. 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 So now we have to let it rest cold for at least an hour, preferably longer. So I'm going to put it back in this bowl. I'm going to put some Glad wrap over, and we're going to be back in a while and we will move on with the next step. Okay, so it said to leave it for an hour, preferably longer than an hour, and it's been like 2.5 hours. So hopefully that should be a good amount of time. So now what we have to do is shape it into cakes. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it in half and then cut it in half again. And I'm gonna try and sort of roll these into balls and then shape it. Oh goodness, I don't know how well this is gonna go. Shape it into a sort of flattish sort of thing. It says then that you're supposed to cook them in a dry cast iron skillet. I don't have a cast iron skillet. So then option B was to cook them in the oven. A low oven, 150 degrees Celsius for 10 to 13 minutes. So let me grab my tray. And I'll go ahead and make the rest of these into balls and then into sort of flattish cakes, and then we will bake them in the oven. So this is a really sort of thick dough. I don't know how this is gonna go, guys, to be honest. It's not like it's definitely not like a soft bread. It's not going to be like a bread roll. I don't think it's going to rise at all, just because it's got so little wheat flour in it. Like only about a quarter of the flour was wheat flour, which is what has like the gluten in it. So I don't know, we're gonna have to see how this goes. I'm choosing not to use a rolling pin to do this because I don't think a rolling pin was a thing back in the Viking days. I mean, they probably had like a stick or a log or something, but I say they probably would have just used their hands. Okay, so there's my 4 bread cake things. I'm going to wait for my oven to finish preheating, and then we're gonna put that in for 10 to 13 minutes. Okay, so I just pulled these out of the oven. I did flip them over halfway through. They were in for the amount of time they were supposed to be in for, plus another couple of minutes. because they didn't look like they were done. But they're kind of, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but they're a little bit brown on the bottom now. So I think that's what we want. I'm going to let these cool down a bit and then we will do a taste test. Okay, Viking bread. Still hot. Actually kind of burning my fingers a little bit, but let's taste it anyway. I'm just going to break a bit off. Hang on. Okay, so got a little bit here. I don't really know how to describe the smell of it. It's not a strong smell at all, but it doesn't have that sort of yeasty smell that most like supermarket breads and stuff have. So let's try. Okay. It's not terrible. It's kind of grainy, which like more than I was expecting, because the flour was fairly fine once I pulsed it in the food processor. It's not a strong flavor. You could definitely add any sort of like sweet or savory, like butter or anything that you wanted to this to add flavor to it. It'd be a good vehicle for anything you wanted to add to it, but it doesn't have a strong flavor of its own. Not as like rock hard as I was expecting it to be, and it seems like it would have a lot of fiber in it. So if fiber is something you struggle with, then this is probably a good one for you. It's crunchy on the outside, but it's not super hard in the middle. So I would say boring, but if you didn't have any other option for sustenance, then this would get you by for sure. Okay, well that is how we make Viking bread. Thanks for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye!